Welcome to Zoe Stories. My mom's boyfriend turned me into his perfect stepdaughter. My name's Jason. I used to think I was just a regular guy, quiet, dependable, maybe a little boring. I worked part-time at a bookstore downtown and lived with my mom in a modest two-bedroom house in the suburbs. Life had been simple ever since my dad left when I was 10. My mom did her best. She worked hard, smiled through the pain, and never let me see how lonely she really was. That all changed the day she met Greg. Greg was charming. The kind of man who walked into a room and made it his without trying. Confident. Successful. He owned a chain of fitness centers and always had this calm, dominant energy. My mom fell hard and fast. Within 3 months, he was staying over. By 6, he practically lived with us. At first, I was fine with it. I wanted my mom to be happy. But over time, something strange happened. Greg started paying attention to me. Not in a fatherly way. No, it was different. Unsettling. His compliments were subtle but strange. "You've got good bone structure," he said once while watching me from across the kitchen. "If you were born a girl, you'd be dangerous." I laughed awkwardly, brushing it off. But it stuck in my head. Especially because I'd always had urges I couldn't explain. See, for as long as I can remember, I felt something stir inside me whenever I saw a beautiful girl, not just attraction, but envy. I'd imagine what it would feel like to wear their clothes, to walk like them, to be them. I never told anyone. I didn't even tell Emma, my girlfriend of 2 years. She was beautiful, spontaneous, and I was terrified of losing her. So I kept that part of me buried. But that urge didn't stay buried. It grew. Especially once Greg entered the picture. I found myself looking at my mom's closet when she was out. Not just out of curiosity anymore, but craving. I wanted to know what it would feel like to slide into one of her silky blouses. To zip up a skirt. To feel the cool touch of lipstick on my lips. One night, when I thought everyone was asleep, I snuck into the bathroom with a pair of pantyhose I found in the laundry basket. My heart raced as I rolled them up my legs. It was electric. I didn't even recognize myself in the mirror. My legs looked so feminine. My hands trembled with a strange cocktail of fear and euphoria. And then I heard the knock. 3 soft taps. A pause. Then Greg's voice. "Jason, you okay in there?" I panicked, ripped the pantyhose off, stuffed them under the sink, and opened the door with a nervous smile. He looked at me for a moment, eyes narrowed. "You were in there a long time." I just felt sick." I lied. He didn't say anything. Just smirked slightly like he knew. Like he saw through me. From that moment on, I felt watched. He started asking me strange questions when my mom wasn't around. "Ever thought about how clothes don't really define gender? You ever feel like you're not being your real self? You know, some men look better in a skirt than a suit." Each time, I'd laugh it off, pretending it was some kind of weird philosophical chat. But he was chipping away at me. Slowly. Deliberately. Emma, on the other hand, had no idea. Our relationship had grown distant lately. She said I seemed distracted. Truth was, I was scared. Scared she'd find out about the things I was hiding. Scared she'd look at me differently. She once found a lipstick mark on my collar and got furious, assuming I cheated. I didn't. It was mine. I'd tried it on in the bathroom at the mall just once. Just to see. But how could I explain that? I just apologized and said it must have been from a coworker's goodbye hug. Greg somehow knew even that. He cornered me in the garage a few days later. "She thinks you're cheating," he whispered. "But I know better." I froze. "What are you talking about?" He leaned closer, his voice like velvet. "You're not cheating. You're experimenting. And that's okay. In fact, I can help you." I didn't respond. Couldn't. He smiled like a man who had already won. That night, I couldn't sleep. My heart pounded like a war drum. Greg's words echoed in my head. I can help you. What did he mean? What did he want? And more importantly, why did a part of me want to say yes? The next day, my mom left for a work retreat. 3 full days. Alone with Greg. He cooked dinner that night. Poured wine like it was a date. And when I got up to leave, he said one thing that stopped me cold. I left a little surprise for you in the guest room closet, just in case you want to explore. I didn't sleep at all that night. By morning, I couldn't take it. I had to know. Hands shaking, I crept into the guest room and opened the closet. Inside hung a dress. Not one of my mom's. This was new, elegant, delicate, baby blue. It shimmered slightly in the light. Next to it, a wig, a full makeup kit, and heels. My size. A note lay folded on the shelf. Be who you are. I won't judge. I'll help. Greg. My knees almost gave out. I was horrified, but also deeply, dangerously tempted. That was the moment everything changed. I sat on the bed, staring at the dress for what felt like hours. My fingers hovered over the soft fabric. The room was silent. Greg wasn't anywhere nearby. I kept waiting for him to barge in, to laugh and say it was all a joke. But the longer I sat there, the more I realized he wasn't coming. He was giving me space. He was waiting. With trembling hands, I touched the baby blue fabric. My heart was pounding, my mind racing through every possible consequence. But there was something stronger underneath all the fear, curiosity.
No. Need.
I stripped off my hoodie and jeans, then hesitated in my boxers. I glanced toward the door, locked it. Slowly, I slid the dress over my body. It fit perfectly, like it was tailored just for me. The fabric hugged my chest and flared slightly at the hips, giving me a subtle silhouette I never thought I'd have. In the mirror, I looked ridiculous. And yet, there was something right about it. Something I couldn't explain. My fingers shook as I opened the makeup kit. Lipstick. Foundation. Eyeshadow. I had no idea what I was doing. I'd seen my mom put on makeup 1,000 times, but doing it to myself was different. I dabbed and blended, smudged and wiped. After 20 minutes, I had something that almost resembled a feminine face. Then came the wig. A soft, shoulder-length chestnut brown. I adjusted it carefully, tucking my short hair underneath. My breath caught as I looked in the mirror again. She was there.
Not me.
Her. A softer version of me. A fantasy made flesh. My heart twisted between fear and wonder. I should have been disgusted, ashamed, but I wasn't. I was alive. And then came the voice. You look beautiful. I spun around in horror. Greg stood in the doorway, leaning casually against the frame, arms folded. I stumbled backward, nearly falling over in the heels. How long have you been standing there? Long enough. Get out, I shouted. My face burned with shame, my eyes hot with panic. But he didn't move. You don't need to be afraid, Jason. Don't call me that, I snapped. He smiled, eyes glinting. Then what should I call you? I froze. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. Listen, I know this is overwhelming.
But I saw this in you.
I've seen it for a long time, and I want to help you become her. For real. My voice cracked. Why are you doing this? Because I care about you, and because I know how hard it is to live a lie. This isn't me. My voice was barely a whisper. Then take off the dress, he said softly. If it's not you, prove it. Take it off. Walk away. Go back to pretending. I stood frozen. He already knew the truth. My hands didn't move. My eyes welled with tears. I didn't want to take it off. Greg walked over slowly and placed a hand on my shoulder. I flinched, but his touch was gentle.
Come.
You don't have to be ashamed. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're evolving. I don't even know who I am anymore, I whispered. Then let's find out. Together. He handed me a phone. There's an app installed, he said. Open it when you're ready. He turned and left, closing the door behind him. I heard his footsteps fade down the hall. I stared at the phone in my hand. My heart pounded. The app was called Feminization. I tapped it open. A login screen appeared, with my name already entered. Welcome, Jada. Jada. It felt like a punch to the chest. A breath stolen. A name I hadn't chosen, but somehow it fit. I wasn't ready, but I couldn't stop. The screen flashed to a full transformation program, a voice training modules, makeup tutorials, wardrobe planner, behavioral coaching, daily challenges. Everything designed to help someone become her, Jada. And at the bottom, a live chat window. Greg, your first lesson starts in 20 minutes. Be ready, sweetheart. I dropped the phone. My breathing was shallow. This was real. He was serious. And somewhere, buried beneath all my fear and confusion, I wanted it. The next morning felt like I'd woken up inside someone else's body. I lay there in bed, staring at the ceiling, the remnants of last night clinging to me like fog. The wig was off, the makeup smudged and mostly wiped clean. But the dress? I hadn't taken it off. I'd slept in it. I couldn't explain it, not even to myself. It was like the second I had become her, Jada, I didn't want to let her go. And even more terrifying, she didn't want to let me go. Greg had left breakfast outside my door. I stared at the tray for 10 minutes before finally opening it. Toast, eggs, a smoothie. There was a note tucked underneath. Today's challenge. Go a full hour dressed as Jada. Hair, makeup, heels. Don't break character. I believe in you.
Gee.
My stomach twisted. He was turning this into a game. But it was more than that. He was testing me, grooming me, maybe, guiding me. I should have been furious. I should have thrown the tray across the room. But instead, I drank the smoothie. Strawberry banana. My favorite. The app dinged. A voice tutorial popped up. A woman's soft, feminine voice chirped through the speaker. Welcome to day 1 of your transformation journey. Let's begin by working on your tone. I stood in front of the mirror again, this time more methodical. I slid into a cream-colored dress Greg had left on the chair. It had thin straps, a flared skirt, and a soft lace trim. Delicate. Feminine. The kind of thing I never imagined myself wearing. It zipped at my back with a quiet ssh, and my breath caught again. My frame still looked awkward. My arms were too long. My shoulders too broad. But my waist, the way the skirt hung, made it look almost right. The app instructed me to speak. Hi, my name is Jada, I said, voice cracking. Again. Hi, my name is Jada. And again, until I found a tone that didn't sound like me. Higher.
Softer.
Slightly breathy. I stared at my reflection. My name is Jada. I was Jada. The hour passed faster than I expected. I checked the timer. Only 6 minutes left. I had actually forgotten about the clock. Just as the time ran out, there was a knock at the door. Greg. My pulse spiked. Why, yeah, I said, suddenly sounding more like Jada than Jason. You can open the door now, sweetheart, Greg said gently. I hesitated, but something in me wanted him to see. I opened the door. His eyes swept over me, not with lust, but with something more dangerous, approval. You're progressing fast, he said with a smile. You've got natural instincts. I swallowed hard. I'm not doing this for you, Greg. Of course not. His voice was maddeningly calm. But you're doing it. I looked away. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. You're scared. That's normal. You're worried what your mom would say, what Emma would do if they found out. Don't talk about Emma, I snapped. Why not? He tilted his head. You don't think she'd find this interesting? My throat tightened. Greg stepped closer. You ever notice how she never really saw you, Jason? Always pushing, always correcting. But Jada? I think Emma would be fascinated by Jada. He was messing with my head. But was he wrong? Emma never really saw me. She loved me, sure. But she wanted someone bold, ambitious, masculine.
A man.
Jada was none of those things. Jada was soft. Greg walked past me and opened the closet. I've stocked a few more options for you. Try something different today. Think elegant, classy, dinner party chic. Why? I asked. Why do you even want this? What do you get out of this? Greg paused, then turned to face me. His expression softened. Because I know what it's like to feel trapped in the wrong life. To live every day wondering if the real you will ever be seen. That's not your decision to make for me. No, he agreed. But you're the one who hasn't taken the dress off. You're the one who called yourself Jada, even when no one was listening. I opened my mouth to argue, but nothing came out.
He was right.
Just think about it, he said, walking toward the door. Tonight, if you're up for a dinner. As Jada. Then he left. And once again, I was alone with the mirror, and her. Jada. I pulled the closet open. Inside were new outfits, dresses, skirts, blouses, shoes. All in my size. All carefully chosen to flatter. He had planned this. He had planned everything. But I couldn't stop. Not now.
Dinner.
I stood in front of the closet for nearly an hour, paralyzed by the choices. Greg hadn't just stocked it with outfits. He had curated them. Dresses that shimmered under the soft bedroom light, heels in different styles and heights, accessories that still had price tags attached. There was even a velvet-lined tray filled with jewelry, clip-on earrings, delicate necklaces, rings that looked too elegant for someone like me.
No, not me.
Jada. She was the one this closet was built for. I finally chose a wine-red off-shoulder dress. It clung to my waist and flared just enough at the hips to suggest a curve that wasn't quite there. I added a faux diamond choker, slipped into nude heels, pulled my hair into a soft bun under the wig, which had been styled and brushed out earlier that day. All of this, all for a dinner I hadn't even agreed to. Yet I still walked down the stairs. Greg stood in the dining room, dressed in slacks and a button-up shirt, sleeves rolled up just enough to show his tattoos. The table was set for two, candles, real silverware, wine glasses sparkling under the chandelier. He smiled as I stepped in, and for a second, I felt like I was on a date. "You look stunning, Jada." I froze. No one had ever called me that with such ease before, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You planned this," I said, pulling out the chair and sitting stiffly. "I planned everything," he admitted without shame. "But only because I saw what you couldn't." "What's that?" "That you needed help letting her out." I scoffed. "You sound like a villain in a movie." "And yet," he said, lifting his glass, "here you are."
He poured me wine.
I shouldn't have accepted it, but Jada did. We ate in silence for a while. He had made salmon with a honey glaze, asparagus, and roasted potatoes. I barely tasted it. My mind was spinning with everything I'd become over the last 2 days. "This doesn't feel real," I whispered. "It is," Greg replied. "And it's only going to get more real. But that's a choice you get to make." "Do I?" I looked up at him. "Because it feels like you're making all the choices." He leaned in slightly serious now. "I gave you a mirror, Jada. You're the one who keeps stepping in front of it." The worst part was that I couldn't argue. After dinner, he handed me a sealed envelope. I opened it slowly, half expecting a trap. Instead, inside was a photo. A Polaroid.
Of me.
Taken earlier that day, fully dressed, posing in front of the mirror, smiling without realizing it. I gasped. "You took this?" "I wanted you to see her. Not just in the mirror, but captured. Frozen in time." I stared at the picture. I didn't even recognize myself. Or maybe I didn't recognize who I'd always been. "You're insane," I whispered. He smirked. "Probably. But I'm not wrong." He left me alone after that. Said goodnight with a kiss on the hand that sent my skin into confused shivers. And then I was back upstairs, staring at that Polaroid. I taped it to the mirror. Not as a reminder of Greg's manipulation, but as proof that Jada was real. That night, I didn't just sleep in the dress. I did my skincare routine, practiced my voice training, and painted my nails a soft rose color. Greg wasn't the reason I kept going. Jada was. The next day brought new tension. Greg didn't text. Didn't leave a note. No smoothie. Nothing. Just silence. For the first time, I initiated it. I went to the closet, chose a simple light blue blouse and a flowing midi skirt. I applied mascara and blush. Slid into flats. Took a deep breath and opened the bedroom door. He was in the living room, sipping coffee, pretending not to notice me. But he did. He waited until I was seated across from him before finally speaking. "You've crossed the line now," he said calmly. "What line?" "The one between pretending and becoming." I swallowed. This doesn't change anything. I'm still Jason. Then why are you sitting here as Jada? His question echoed in my head for hours. Later that day, I wandered back into the closet, overwhelmed by curiosity. A new box was waiting on the chair. Inside was a makeup bag and a folded piece of paper. Every girl needs her own tools. Today's challenge: go to the mall.
Dressed.
In character. In public. My heart stopped. He couldn't be serious. A trip to the mall? As Jada? That was too far. Too dangerous. I was about to crumple the note when I saw what lay beneath it. A gift card. $300. For a boutique downtown. Greg had just raised the stakes. And I didn't know whether to feel thrilled or terrified. The boutique's name was Leah's, tucked between a nail salon and a coffee shop on the quieter side of town. It was small, cozy, and impossibly feminine, from the floral decals on the window to the pastel mannequins flaunting delicate sundresses and heels. I stood outside for 10 minutes, heart hammering in my chest. My reflection in the glass door showed a girl who looked composed, even pretty. But beneath the careful makeup and the confidence of a swinging purse, Jason trembled. One deep breath. I stepped inside. Chimes jingled above the door. The scent of perfume and new clothes enveloped me instantly. "Hi. Welcome to Leah's," chirped a girl behind the counter. She had pink bangs and butterfly earrings. "Let me know if you need anything." I gave her a soft smile, nodded, and slipped into the nearest rack of dresses. Hiding. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what I needed. This was Greg's challenge, not mine. But I wasn't turning back now. As I browsed, I kept stealing glances at the other shoppers. 2 older women near the clearance rack. A teenage girl with her mother trying on heels. No one stared. No one gasped or pointed. No one knew. Or maybe they did and didn't care. I moved to a row of fitted blouses, running my fingers across the fabric. A soft lavender top caught my eye. Lace along the shoulders. The kind of thing I would have never touched a month ago. I added it to my arm. Then a denim skirt. A pair of black ankle boots. By the time I made it to the changing room, I was carrying 6 pieces and feeling like I might throw up. Inside the small cubicle, I locked the door and sat on the bench, trying to breathe. This was too much. I shouldn't be here. But then I looked at myself in the mirror. Jada looked scared, but determined. Piece by piece, I tried on the outfits. Twirling.
Posing.
Smiling despite myself. I took pictures with my phone. Deleted some.
Kept one.
She was starting to feel real. I was halfway into the last dress when I heard it. "Jason." The voice stopped my heart. I froze. That voice. Emma. She was in the store. No, 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 no. I pressed myself against the wall of the changing room, hands shaking. What were the chances? What were the chances? I heard her laugh, close now. Talking to someone. She sounded casual. Happy. If she saw me, I'd be exposed. Everything would collapse. I heard footsteps. Voices. The curtain next to mine swished open and closed. "Let me know how that one fits," the salesgirl said to someone outside. Emma was right next to me. I didn't move. Barely breathed. One wrong sound, and she'd hear. I stayed like that for what felt like hours, barefoot, clutching the dress against me like armor. Eventually, Emma left. Her voice faded.
The door chimed.
Silence returned. I waited 5 more minutes, just to be sure before I dressed quickly, pulled the wig tighter, fixed my lipstick, and left the changing room like nothing had happened. At checkout, I handed over the gift card with trembling fingers. The pink-haired girl didn't notice. "Hope you enjoyed shopping, babe," she said cheerfully. "You've got great taste."
I smiled, nodded.
But inside, my world had changed. Back home, I collapsed on the couch, heart still racing. Greg came in minutes later, looking smug. "So," he asked. "I saw her," I whispered.
"Emma."
"She was there." His smile faltered. "Did she see you?" "No," I said. "But I think she almost did." He sat beside me, quiet for a long time. "That fear you felt," he finally said. "That's part of the journey. It doesn't mean you stop. It means you're finally living something real. I turned toward him. You think this is real now? He reached into his pocket and pulled out a black box. What's that? He opened it. A gold necklace. Small letters spelled out, JYDA. My breath caught. It's yours, he said, if you want it. My fingers closed around the pendant, warm from his palm. Jada. Not a role. Not a game. Not a disguise. A name. A choice. I want it, I whispered. He clasped it around my neck. And suddenly, everything felt official. That night, I didn't change back into Jason. I made dinner in a pink apron. Watched TV curled on the couch with my legs tucked beneath me. Texted friends with the TV on mute. None of them knew who I really was. And part of me didn't want them to. Because the more time I spent as Jada, the less I remembered how Jason used to feel. And I wasn't sure if that was exciting or terrifying. Greg had been unusually quiet for days. Ever since I came back from Leah's with bags of clothes and my heart in my throat, something had shifted. I'd started calling myself Jada more, even in my own head. My reflection didn't startle me anymore. I wore perfume now. I moisturized. I giggled at TikToks while applying mascara. And Greg, he watched all of it with a look I couldn't decode. Was it pride? Control? Or something else entirely? I wasn't sure. But tonight, something felt different. I was in the kitchen, wearing my favorite outfit, a flowy peach blouse tucked into a pleated skirt, soft pink lips, and ankle socks. Jada was thriving. Confident even. She twirled while flipping pancakes. She swayed her hips to the music in her earbuds. Until Greg stepped into the doorway. He wasn't smiling. I took out one earbud.
Hey.
Everything okay? He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out his phone, scrolled, and held it up toward me. My stomach dropped. It was a photo of me in the boutique changing room. Mid-pose. One hand on my hip. Lipstick perfect. Legs crossed like a model. My breath hitched. Wah, where did you get that? Emma sent it to me, he said. My body froze. No. She was shopping that day. Saw someone who looked like you. She thought it was impossible, but the dress caught her attention. She said she followed her gut and found this. I was shaking now. I can explain. I don't want an explanation, Jada. He stepped closer, phone still in hand. I want to know what you're going to do about it. I backed up against the counter. What does that mean? He leaned in, voice low. She's asking questions. She's coming over tomorrow. You've got two options. I swallowed. My knees felt weak. Either you tell her everything about Jason, about Jada, or... He reached into the drawer and pulled out a white envelope. You commit. I opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a flyer. A local modeling competition. Finding her, celebrating new faces of femininity. And at the bottom, grand prize winner gets signed to Fleur Agency. I looked up at him, blinking. You want me to model? I want Jada to walk that runway, he said. Let the world see her before Emma does. I stared at the flyer. This wasn't a game anymore. Greg was testing me. He wanted to know how far I'd go. Would I crawl back into Jason's skin and hide? Or step onto a literal stage, heels and all, and show everyone what I'd become? My voice barely came out. What if I fall? Greg tilted his head. Then fall like a girl, sweetheart. The next morning, the air was thick with dread. Emma was coming at noon. I couldn't eat.
Couldn't think.
I paced my room in a silk robe, staring at the necklace, Jada, glinting in the morning light. Greg had left early, supposedly to pick up dry cleaning. But I knew what he was really doing. He wanted me alone. Forced to face this. I sat at the vanity and stared at myself. Mascara in hand. Lip gloss ready. What would she think when she saw me like this? I pictured her face, shock, horror, betrayal. But beneath that, would she understand? Would she still love me? I dabbed foundation on trembling cheeks. Brushed blush onto my cheekbones. I wasn't hiding anymore. And if today destroyed everything, then let it. At 11:58, there was a knock at the door. I almost didn't answer. I almost ran upstairs and locked myself in the bathroom. But instead, I walked barefoot to the front door and opened it. Emma stood there. Sunglasses. Tank top. Purse slung casually over her shoulder. Until her eyes landed on me. They widened. Her jaw slackened. "Jason," she whispered. I smiled gently. "No," I said. "It's Jada." Emma didn't speak for what felt like forever. She just stared at the soft waves of my hair, the gloss on my lips, the way the pink blouse hugged my figure. Her eyes flickered to the necklace, the one that read Jada. "Is this some kind of joke?" Her voice cracked like glass. I shook my head, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear. "No joke," I whispered. "This is who I've been. For a while now." Emma blinked. Her face contorted like she was trying to make sense of something fundamentally broken. "You wore a dress."
At the boutique.
And smiled. "You were posing, Jason." "Jada." "What?" Her voice shot up. I flinched, but I didn't step back. "I didn't mean to hide it from you," I said, trying to hold steady. "At first it was Greg. He encouraged it, pushed it, but then it became something else. Something I started to want." Emma looked like she'd been slapped. "So, this is Greg's idea? What the hell is wrong with him?" My silence said enough. Her eyes narrowed. "Did he force you?" I hesitated.
No.
"Not really." He gave me a nudge. But I didn't hate it. I was scared. Then curious. Then I let out a breath. Then I felt alive. Emma stepped back like the words had physically hit her. "You lied to me." I didn't know how to explain it, I pleaded. "How do you say, 'Hey babe, sometimes I like being your prettier competition'?" She didn't laugh. Tears welled in her eyes. "I thought you were cheating," she said. "I followed you to Leah's because I thought you had someone else." "You did." She looked at me again. And this time, something shifted. A crack in the rage. A flicker of realization. "You weren't with someone else," she whispered. "You were becoming someone else." I nodded. The room fell into silence. Just her breathing. And mine. Then she turned and walked out the door. Didn't slam it. Didn't look back. Just left me standing there. Alone. In full makeup. In full Jada. I stood frozen for a full 10 minutes. My knees gave out eventually. I collapsed onto the hallway floor, the carpet scratching my bare legs. I wanted to cry, but couldn't. I didn't even hear Greg come back in. Only realized he was home when he crouched beside me and placed a hand on my shoulder. "She saw," he asked softly. I nodded. "She ran?" I nodded again.
He sighed.
Then he said something I didn't expect. "Good." I looked up at him, confused, angry. "How the hell is that good?" "Because now," he said gently, "I don't have to pretend anymore." That evening, Greg brought out a box from the garage. It was long, sleek, and wrapped in matte black paper. "What's this?" I asked. "Your next step." I unwrapped it slowly. Inside was a designer dress. Ivory silk. Off-shoulder. Form-fitting. Elegant. Timeless.
Stunning.
"This is for the competition?" I asked, voice shaking. He nodded. "I told him you'd walk the runway next weekend." "What if I say no?" He didn't blink. "Then we both burn the dress. And Jada goes back in the closet. Forever." Silence. I stared down at the dress in my lap. It shimmered under the lights. It felt like it was glowing from the inside. I whispered, "I don't know who I am anymore." Greg placed a mirror in front of me. "You're her." The day of the competition arrived faster than I anticipated. The moment I slipped into the ivory silk dress, it felt like a dream, a reality I hadn't expected, yet one I was inexplicably drawn to. Every stitch hugged my body in all the right places. The dress was a piece of art, with its delicate fabric trailing down my legs. Every step I took in it made me feel more like someone else, like Jada. Greg had been preparing me for this moment for weeks. He had meticulously chosen every detail, the hair, the makeup, even the subtle yet bold high heels that clicked with every step. He kept saying this was the ultimate test, the final step in my transformation. I could hear the distant hum of voices from the backstage area. The competition was fierce, contestants buzzing with anxiety and excitement, the air thick with perfume and hairspray. I caught glimpses of other models in the mirrored hallways, their outfits extravagant, their faces set with determination. But I couldn't shake the knot of fear tightening in my stomach. The crowd was expecting perfection, and deep down, I knew there was no going back. No more hiding. I glanced at my reflection in the full-length mirror. For a brief second, I didn't recognize myself. My hair was sleek, glossy, flowing down my back in waves. My face was flawless, the makeup expertly done, and the dress? It was everything I had feared and hoped for. I was transformed. "You're ready," Greg said, his voice smooth but firm. He stood behind me, his eyes scanning my reflection. "You look perfect," but something inside me felt hollow. A part of me longed to turn away, to forget the whole thing. I could almost hear Emma's voice in my head, a mix of disbelief and disappointment. I knew she wouldn't understand. Would she even want me back if I went through with this? The question gnawed at me. Before I could lose myself in the whirlwind of thoughts, Greg nudged me forward. "Time to take your place." The music began to swell as I took my first steps onto the stage. The lights hit me immediately, bright and blinding, blurring the faces in the audience into a sea of judgment. My heart thudded against my chest, each beat growing louder as I made my way down the runway. Every eye was on me. Every breath I took felt amplified, a constant reminder that this was it, the moment I had been dreading and anticipating. There was no turning back now. My legs shook in the heels, but I forced myself to keep walking, one foot in front of the other. I tried to focus on the cheers, the applause. But all I could hear was the voice in my head screaming, "You're not ready for this." At the end of the runway, I paused. The lights seemed even more intense now, almost suffocating. The spotlight bore down on me, illuminating every detail of my transformation. I took a breath, a final, shaky exhale. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw a familiar face.
Emma.
She stood in the crowd, her eyes wide, her mouth slightly open in shock. Her gaze locked with mine for a split second before she turned away, her expression unreadable. I froze. For a moment, everything seemed to stop. The crowd's applause faded into the background, and all I could hear was the deafening pulse of my heart. She's here. She saw me. I took a hesitant step forward, my legs barely supporting me. My stomach twisted, ball rising in my throat. The room felt smaller. My chest tightened. I needed to finish this. I needed to get through this, whatever this was. But before I could take another step, a voice rang out, cutting through the tension. "You think you can just walk away from us?" I spun around, heart leaping into my throat. It was Greg. But it wasn't the Greg I knew. He stood at the back of the stage, his expression dark and full of malice. His eyes were cold, the warmth I'd felt from him gone. And in his hand, a small, black envelope. My blood ran cold. "Greg?" I whispered, barely able to form words. "What are you doing?" He stepped forward, closer to the center of the stage, his presence now commanding the space. His voice was low but sharp, almost threatening. "You think this is a game?" His smile was cruel, twisted. "You wanted to be Jada, to wear this dress, to step into her world. But you didn't understand the price." My hands shook, but I couldn't take my eyes off him. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice trembling. He tossed the black envelope onto the stage at my feet. "You've been playing with fire, Jada," he said, his words dripping with malice. "But you haven't seen the consequences yet." I bent down, cautiously picking up the envelope. As I opened it, a single piece of paper slipped out. It was a photo. A photo of me, not as Jada, but as Jason. A version of me no one should have seen. My old self, from before Greg had manipulated me into this world. It was a picture of me, back at my old job, looking clueless and vulnerable. Suddenly, the whole room felt wrong. The applause died down. The air thickened. And just as I was about to speak, Greg's voice cut through the tension. The stage lights flickered. The crowd's cheers seemed to fade away. Had Greg just turned everything against me? I felt exposed. The person I had fought so hard to become was now in jeopardy. The photo. The truth. Would Emma come for me? Would anyone? And in that moment, I realized something terrible. I had lost control. The moment the photo slipped from the envelope, everything shifted. The crowd's applause faded into a distant, muffled hum, replaced by the intense thrum of my own heartbeat. The air was thick with anticipation, but all I could feel was the weight of Greg's words pressing down on me. Everyone here will know who you really are. The lights above me flickered erratically, casting shadows over my trembling form. The cheers died. The applause faltered. The perfect world I had carefully crafted for myself, Jada, was shattering before my very eyes. I bent down to pick up the photo, my fingers trembling, my mind racing with 1,000 questions. Who had taken this photo? How had Greg gotten it? And most importantly, why was he doing this? What had started as a thrilling, albeit terrifying, experiment now felt like a dangerous game with no way out. The photo was me, but not Jada. It was Jason. It was the man I had been before all of this. The ordinary, unremarkable guy who had no clue what it would be like to wear heels, to feel the rush of makeup transforming him, to experience the power of being someone else. But it was more than just a photo. It was a reminder of who I had been and who I was still, beneath the layers of makeup, beneath the delicate fabric of this dress. I held the photo in my shaking hand, looking down at the image of my old self. The man I used to be was staring back at me, his eyes wide with confusion. He didn't know what was coming. He didn't know that he was about to be consumed by a world of secrets, lies, and deceit. But now, here I was, Jada, standing on the stage, caught in the middle of a cruel game. Greg's voice cut through my thoughts. You can't run from the truth forever. His words were sharp, punctuating the silence in the room. I stood frozen, unable to move, unable to respond. The weight of the photo in my hand felt like a millstone around my neck. I could feel the eyes of the audience on me, their collective gaze heavy, suffocating. Were they all in on this? Was this a part of the show? Or was I just the fool, the pawn in Greg's twisted game? I didn't know. I didn't know anything anymore. I wanted to drop the photo, to tear it up and forget about it. But I couldn't. It was like a tether, anchoring me to the past I had tried so hard to escape. Then, from behind me, I heard a voice that sent chills down my spine. Jada? It was Emma. She stepped forward from the shadows of the backstage area, her face pale, her expression unreadable. Her eyes met mine, locking onto my gaze with an intensity that made my blood run cold. For a moment, we just stared at each other. A million words were left unsaid between us, hanging in the air like an unsolved mystery. I couldn't read her expression. I didn't know if she was angry, confused, or hurt. All I could see was the raw, unfiltered emotion on her face as she walked toward me. Her eyes flickered from the photo in my hand to my face. She didn't say anything at first, but her gaze spoke volumes. She saw everything, she knew everything, and she wasn't happy about it. My mind raced, my heart pounding in my chest. What was I supposed to do now? I had no answers. I had no plan. And with Emma standing there, it was like the final act of this twisted performance was unfolding. Why didn't you tell me? She finally whispered, her voice shaking. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. I was frozen in place, staring at her, unable to explain myself. How could I? How could I explain what I had become, what I had done, and what I had let Greg do to me? The room seemed to shrink around me, the walls closing in, the air thick with tension. The crowd was still watching, waiting, wondering what would happen next. And then, just as I thought I couldn't take it anymore, Emma took another step forward. I know what you've been hiding, Jada. Her voice was low, but her words cut through me like a knife. But what I don't understand is why you've been doing this. Why have you been playing this game with me? Her gaze never wavered. It was as if she could see straight through me, straight through everything I had worked so hard to conceal. I was on the verge of a breakdown, my body trembling, my emotions threatening to overflow. The tension in the air was unbearable, the weight of everything I had been hiding crashing down on me. But just as I opened my mouth to answer her, to beg for her forgiveness, a loud crash echoed from backstage. Everyone turned their heads toward the source of the noise. The lights flickered again, and suddenly, the entire room was plunged into darkness. The audience gasped, the atmosphere thick with confusion and fear. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew one thing for sure. This was no accident. Someone was here, and they had a purpose. As the darkness stretched on, I heard the sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate, moving closer. My heart raced as I tried to make out any shapes in the inky blackness, but the stage was too vast, too empty. And then a voice. "It's not over yet."